I am very pleased today to welcome back to the lecture series His Excellency Johnston Busingya, High Commissioner of Rwanda to the United Kingdom. The High Commissioner holds a law degree from Makerere University in Kampala, Uganda. Before his posting in London, he occupied a number of important positions in Rwandan government and in African jurisprudence more broadly. From 2006 to 2013, he served as president of the High Court of Rwanda. He has also served as Minister of Justice and Attorney General in the Rwandan government, and as the principal judge of the East African Court of Justice.
Thank you very much. Dear colleagues, dear classroom, the virtual classroom, this is my biggest pleasure again to be here and having a conversation with you. The time difference is so big. I'm told it's, I don't know, midday over there or 3 p.m. I don't know what time it is there, but here it's midnight. But it's always a pleasure to be able to share this conversation about the legacy of the Gacaca courts. The Gacaca courts, for some of you who are hearing this for the first time, are Rwanda's solution, justice solution post-genocide. After the genocide against the Tutsi in 1994, we had a host of problems. And I think one of the most teething, we usually say every problem was teething, but because I was in the justice sector, I always say the justice problem was more teething than every other problem. One, we had hordes and hordes of suspects who are suspected to have been involved in the genocide, and we did not have a single system capable and effective enough to handle the sheer numbers that we had. And then we had them in prison. And by prison, I mean custody, because the numbers that our prisons could handle were very quickly overrun, and we ended up using extra spaces that we could find, including parking lots which were fenced, including garages that were large enough to house people, including schools, some of which we just turned into custody, including workshops, places like that. And once that was done, the next thing to do was, how do we deliver justice in a situation of a post-genocide country that had literally been crippled economically, socially, infrastructure, the courts. We were literally crippled, and we needed to do justice. So Gacaca courts were the judicial mechanism that we adopted to deal with this problem. Mark Twain says history never repeats itself, but it often rhymes. In 1945, there was a never again that everybody knows about. But since that never again post-Holocaust, we have had genocides. We have had situations that humanity cannot explain. And all of them, when they are examined, they are preventable, they are stoppable, and their causes are known, but they were not stopped. But will be a story of another day. Stephen will probably give me another time, another day to talk about the causes and how a genocide could happen in 1994. But for some historical context, Rwanda is a country, a very small country, 26,000 square kilometers, somewhere in the middle of Africa, right now in the East African community. It's generally evolved like many places on the African continent. It has a pre-colonial story, it has a colonial story, and it has a post-colonial story. Our pre-colonial story is a country not divided along ethnicities, a country where a nation where intermarriages and mixed families across social groups are commonplace, a place where Rwandans live side by side on the hills and the plains of Rwanda, and manage conflict whenever it arises in a way people manage conflict, but continue to coexist, continue to serve each other in terms of how they survive as citizens. Now, during our colonial period, we were colonized in succession by Germany, and until it lost the war, then we were given to Belgium as Belgium was our trustee. Never mind what they were entrusting us to Belgium for, but that's another story. But we were entrusted to Belgium, and it was from Belgium that we got Rwanda got its independence in 1962. But during that time, from the time the Belgians took over the reins of the colony from the Germans, the evolution was around the question of ethnicity. The Belgians based their administration on the ethnic makeup of Rwanda, or what they themselves built up around what they found as that was social classes, and they built up by the 50s and the mid 50s towards the 60s. They had built a mountain of ethnic difference from a people that shared a language, that shared a culture, that shared a history, that shared the space, the physical space they lived in, that shared traditions and totems and everything. Until now, Rwandans don't know how different they are. It was known by someone else who really did the homework to arrive at how different people are. Those of you who have done some bit of reading about Rwanda will know that it reached ridiculous levels, including measuring people, measuring their height, measuring the size of their nose, in order to determine who was different from who. So the Belgians built really their administration, their local administration, their governance. We had a feudal structure, and the feudal leaders were at first a favored group of people, which later on, because they agitated for independence, they agitated for freedom, they agitated for liberty from colonialism, then the Belgian administration now switched to those who are not in the feudal, in the monarchy system, the family kind of system, and there we had now a rallying call of this system, which is an overload, which is loading it over us, which is exploiting us, and then you now you went towards a full-blown system where you now had the feudal people, and you had a monarchy, and you had the people who are against them, and also whom the Belgians had really inculcated the whole mindset of difference. We are different from you. You don't belong here. We don't belong together. We don't originate together. You probably originate from Ham, those of you who know Ham in the Bible. And there were historians who came in Africa and developed this whole Hamite theory of people who must have descended from Ham, the Ham of the Bible. I don't know how and what the journey was. So after independence, just before independence, there was this huge ethnic crisis where rather than agitate for independence, there was the ethnic crisis where people were demanding for an ethnic vote, and a vote on whether we should have a monarchy, whether we should not have a monarchy, rather than have independence. So that should come first, and independence should come second. So that went on, and the Belgians were looking on and did not act. And then we had the crisis of the monarchs, plus all that were determined to be close to them, to be allied to them, to be ethnically similar to them, being expelled out of Rwanda. And we had a mini genocide around 1959, around 1960, because that expulsion was forceful, was violent. That was the first exodus of Rwandans out of Rwanda into the region, to the north, into Uganda, to the east, into Tanzania, to the west, into present-day DRC, and to the south, into Burundi. And many people managed to cross the borders and go across the countries and stay there. And they stayed there for a long, long time. But others were not as lucky, so they were killed, and they were killed purely because of who they are, who they had been identified as. So, but we got independence around 1962, and then we continued the same ethnic extremist governments from the First Republic to the Second Republic. They were basically fanatic. The ethnicity that was in charge was the Hutu ethnicity, and having been sharpened and having been built up, having been created really, and now it was a huge mountain of a problem. So we now had what they called a Hutu government after the monarchy was overthrown and everybody close to it, named Tutsi. as an ethnicity were thrown out of Rwanda, and a few remained in Rwanda at the time. They either for not being able to run away or for being internally displaced, and the satisfaction that maybe that should serve them, maybe they would die in there, because many of them would be displaced to tsetse-fly control infested areas and such other difficult places that would make their lives impossible to survive. So the First Republic after independence and the Second Republic, we had the First Republic that ran until 1973, and then the Second Republic that ran from 1973 to 1994. But all of them, they ran on exclusion, they ran on ethnic discrimination. Those few Tutsis who remained in Rwanda after 1959, they were really the targets, and they paid the price even for those who ran away, because they really underwent every test: exclusion, killings from time to time, dehumanization. They went through, every kind of situation calculated to destroy them in whole or in part. But they survived, they reproduced, they continued to live, and whichever places they took them, I think they managed to overcome the difficulties in the land, and they were able to grow crops and survive until. But the exclusion and the discrimination and the lack of opportunity and once in a while killings did not stop. And then towards the whole ethnic extremism, the whole story of ethnic extremism continued growing up and up and up. So towards after the 80s, there was a lot of pressure from inside Rwanda, from political organizations that continued agitating to form or to grow, and those who had run out of Rwanda in 1959 had now become those who were young had become young adults, and they had started agitating and even considering use of force, struggling by force of arms to return themselves to Rwanda. So there was this whole situation in Rwanda, and the response. It's okay. The response of the government was more repression, was more discrimination, was actually it was now a preparation for a total genocide, because the extremist politicians would be saying, look, we made a big mistake in 1959. We should have finished these people. The fact that we did not finish them has allowed them to regroup, to reproduce, to keep growing. And this was a mistake that we did in 1959. But the whole preparation of a genocide was seen, was reported. In the early 90s, it was more sharpened, and the whole situation in Rwanda was absolutely charged against the population of the Tutsi, who were especially inside the country. In 1990, a liberation struggle began, especially by Rwandans who were outside of Rwanda. And it progressed from the northern part of Rwanda towards the center from 1990 October. But around that time, they continued inside the country. They continued making it very, very clear that the Tutsi population inside Rwanda will pay the price of this struggle that is waged now from outside of Rwanda by people who were thrown out of Rwanda in 1959, 1960. So here there was a struggle, and here internally the government was threatening, if this struggle does not stop, the Tutsi inside Rwanda will pay the price. And this did not stop it did not stop in Rwanda. It also was the echo from our former the former colonial state. It was also the echo from the friends of the colonial state in Paris. So it was not just confined to Rwanda. Everybody was able to know and see and hear that there was a very serious preparation of a genocide as a final solution. So in 1994, in April, the war had reached closer to Kigali. The government was under serious pressure, and there was a whole attempt at negotiations to negotiate peace, and somewhere around that time, a group internally there was a very serious internal dissension in the state. Some going in for less extreme policies, becoming moderates, others insisting on being extreme, not really wanting to even imagine coexisting with the people who had been thrown out of the country in 1959. And in that, within that, I think the extremist camp in the government became very seriously powerful, led by the wife of the president, and the whole host of her relatives, serious officers in the army, generals, and so on. It was an extremist group with very, very serious power at the center. So the president was shot out of the skies in April, I think on the 6th of April. And the whole plan being to take him out, and then that would be reason enough to start the implementation of the genocide. And the genocide, within hours, there were roadblocks, there were cries by moderates and Tutsis. And that's when the genocide began. The genocide in Rwanda began basically on the 7th of April in the night, probably after midnight or something like that. And it went on for the next 100 days. At the end of it, we had these pictures you see are what I was talking about a moment ago. These were European, but I think they were Belgian people trying to show or to find the difference in people. That is measuring the size of the nose, looking in the eye, to really find the ethnic differences of people. That is how ridiculous our situation would be. But I just gave you that little background so that we could understand what exactly happened in Rwanda for those who might not have known about it or who have had different other versions that we will be happy to have a conversation on at the end. So at the end of the genocide, 1 million people were dead, having been killed by probably a bigger number of people than that. And many other things happened. There was a huge exodus of people from Rwanda to the DRC and to Tanzania, and a completely crippled economy. But let's focus now on justice. So internally in the country, there were suspects who were arrested and put in custody. And slowly there were other suspects who would venture to come back and cross the borders, and they would get arrested, become identified, and also get in custody. Others remained there and continued coming down or being brought, especially like from Tanzania, when all those who went to Tanzania were brought back. So that was our story of people who needed, on whom justice needed to be done, and we could not do it. So what is Gacaca? Gacaca is a Rwandan traditional conflict resolution mechanism that has been as old as our society itself. And it used to be exercised by people of integrity, people reputed to be of integrity. No scientific test, but the test is about people perceiving someone as a person of integrity. And then if you are perceived to be a person of integrity, that means you can be a good person to tell right from wrong and to sit in judgment of a community's conflicts, and not to be partial and not to be corrupted. And in the end, you stand up and are counted as a person of integrity, and that was how useful you were to the community. And that is pre-colonial Rwanda. That is the Rwanda of many years before the advent of colonialism and the colonial institutions of justice, of education, of the thing that came in from Europe. That was the system that Rwandans used whenever they had their own disputes to resolve. It did not use a system of prisons because Rwandans didn't believe that the system of prison serves a big role. They believed in many other ways of punishing people, of meting out fines and other punishments, but they never built up prisons. I think prisons were built during the colonial time. So this sitting you see here is a Gacaca process. The people who are seated, usually the Gacaca process used to be under trees because of looking for a shade. Here you can see they are not under a tree, and that's why some of them who have umbrellas are holding their umbrellas. And the grass on which they are seated in Kinyarwanda is called urucaca, and that is where the word Gacaca comes from. That is star grass. Star grass is a type of grass, for those who know it, is a type of grass which remains green and remains with a bit of water around it, even during quite arid seasons. So, and it doesn't grow very tall. It instead grows, horizontally, and it is really it presents like a mat people can sit on, and it is clean. It doesn't connect you to the soil underneath. So that is the word uruchacha, and meaning when you sit on a small little compound of that star grass, then it is given the beginning of a G, and in Kinyarwanda it means a small compound of star grass. And that is the beginning of the word. That is where the word gacaca comes from, because people would usually sit under a tree on that grass and resolve their disputes. So when we had this problem of many convicts, many suspects in our prisons, we tried all sorts of options. We tried looking for judges across the world from friendly countries. We tried training our own. That is the story of the gacaca, and we always hit a snag by. So we needed a system that will deal with 130,000 plus people. We needed a system that will give us the truth. We needed a system that would give us speed. We needed a system that would involve communities so that they understand the danger of impunity. We needed a system that would help us build unity and reconcile our people. And we wished to see Rwandans sitting in playing roles of resolving their own problems. If you know that the normal court system that we go to for criminal cases, there is no criminal case that gives you these things. A criminal case will give you guilty and innocent, and it won't give you any of these. It can't give you. It won't assure you of speed. It won't eradicate impunity. It will deal with guilt and innocence. And if in the process it is fast, that's okay. If in the process it promotes unity and reconciliation, that's okay. But in our case, we wanted to address those issues very specifically. Why? Because the genocide did not happen at night. It happened in broad daylight. Neighbors killed neighbors. And they had lived together not for 100, not for 200, but for thousands of years. So the point at which our country reached, where neighbors would go and kill neighbors, where a husband killed a wife, meant that we needed a system that would address this, that at the end of the day, people would ask themselves this question of how did we get here? Because we thought that that was the only place people needed to reach in order to start building a society based on the values of humanity, based on the values of coexistence, based on the inviolability of the right to life. And for us to be able to go that direction, to even start reconciling anybody, we needed a justice system that would try to address a number of things, including these ones I just put here: the truth, speed, impunity, unity, reconciliation, and capacity of Rwandans to resolve their own problems. So this is another gacaca process that now shows you people celebrating after dealing with a case, and symbolically showing, look, the elephant in the room has been addressed. Now we can start to walk together and walk in a united fashion, and not again, degenerate into ethnic division, discrimination, killing anybody because of who they are. So we created Gacaca codes. Gacaca codes were created at each cell, at each sector, at each district, at each province. Now, these are small areas, and these are administrative areas in Rwanda. A cell is a smaller, geographically smaller administrative area. A sector is bigger. A district is much more bigger, and the province is even bigger. So we have 5 provinces in Rwanda, that is for context, and 30 districts, and then 416 sectors, and probably 2,160 cells. Then this word that you see there at the bulleted, the Kinyarwanda word called inyangamugayo. Inyangamugayo is a man or woman of integrity. These are the ones who presided over the Gacaca courts, and 34% of them were women. This is also for context, because like many other societies in Africa, Rwanda was very much a patriarchal, patrilineal society, and the wars and the genocide. After the genocide, you had very many women-headed households, women survivors, more than men. So naturally, you had to use the manpower you have, but that beginning has over 30 years. This is now the 31st year. It has led to so many multiplier things in the area of gender, to the point right now our parliament is 65% women. That's probably the highest in the world, and other things like that. But this starts from far away with that long history. And then perpetrators were categorized from 1 to 4, depending on the severity of the suspicions, the evidence against them. Category 1 being the highest responsibility, and category 4 being the lowest. And then the reconciling factor, the advantage of taking up Gacaca and yielding to it, and having confidence that it is going to deal with the problem that we had. We also had to build incentives within the Gacaca process. So for a complete confession that was determined as complete, it gave the confessor a reduction of 50% of the sentence that they would otherwise serve. So that incentive was to make sure people do buy in, understand the whole purpose was not to do an eye for an eye justice. We still had the death penalty by that time. And it was for people to understand that this is not about retribution, it's not about revenge, it's not about victor's justice, it's about doing justice because a crime was committed, and it's about a future more than anything else. If you see that gentleman standing in there, that is an accused person, and these people with a kind of a flag, around their hang around their across their chest and back. These are the judges that are in judgment over this man, and the rest of the community would come there. Now, this community would probably include his wife, include his child, include his brother and his uncle. And even these judges would probably include a relative because that wasn't excluded. And they could feel free to say what they feel they want to say as long as it is the truth. Because if you didn't tell the truth, that would be a different other big problem. So if you see that guy there, that guy is in a court. That is a Gacaca court. The gentleman is before the court. At the end of it all, we had done in a space of 10 years. I hope we can show the 10 years somewhere. But in a space of 10 years, we had done this kind of statistics. Cases tried by Gacaca in category 1, you can see them. That is the top line. In category 2, you can see them. That's the second line. In the category 3, you can also see them. And in another phase, there is another category that you can see. And in the end, we had a total of 1,958,634 cases. Those which were determined were 1,681,000, and then in terms of percentage, they were 86%. Acquittals were 277,066, and the guilty were from the confessions were 225. So that is the kind of number. Now, the biggest number that I want to talk about is the 1,958,000. Researchers that we consulted, and they became consultants and researched for us how long we would need, even if we were to use the classic court system. Some told us, given the time a case takes from beginning to end, some gave us 100 years, some gave us above 50 years. And that meant that literally everybody who was, let's say, above the age of 40 in 1994 would be a minimum 90 by the time they face justice. And Rwanda's life expectancy at the time was 49. So the statistical possibility that everybody would be dead was high, and the possibility that 3/4 would be dead by the time they were expected to be in justice, the statistical possibility was like 100%. So even if we were to go the classic way, the impossibilities in terms of justice delayed were simply unacceptable. So our Gacaca is credited for restoring tolerance, peaceful coexistence, forgiveness, and providing a foundation for healing and reconciliation. And almost 3 decades, well, this was last year, 3 decades later, where are we today? And I'm just giving you a holistic situation, because Gacaca paved way for Rwandans living side by side again, but without, ethnic discrimination and ethnic crises with a journey towards a united country that where people see themselves as part of the same country and manage their other affairs, including managing their politics, not on an ethnic basis. So the reason I'm beginning where are we today with our life expectancy is because without the Gacaca process, without establishing that framework, without getting these people that we had in our jails, without getting them out of jail and into society and doing their own things, we would not have started to develop an education system, an agricultural system, a health system. We would not have started to do that because we would still be dealing with our existential threat of ethnic division. So today, our life expectancy is at 69. Our universal health coverage is at 90. We aim to have it fully universal, not just in name, but we aim to have it at 100. Literacy rates were in 48% in the year 2000. Today they are 89%. 97% of school-going children go to school. They are enrolled in school. Our women empowerment are now 64%. Our ethnic labels that were the source of our problems no longer define us formally in terms of our identification. We identify as Rwandan. That is what is on my passport, and that is what is on wherever I need to identify myself. And there are no longer a criteria for access to any opportunity, to any duty, to any role. They are no longer. We have done this deliberately so that we provide this experience of a Rwandan not being asked, what ethnicity are you? Because that question was always sending cold shivers down the spines of every Tutsi, the person identified as Tutsi, and was always sending warmth to every Hutu. That is because they felt that was like a rite of passage. It was like a title that was acquired. But on the downside, it just created a country that was divided within itself, and it would be very difficult to make the march towards progress with a country that is divided within itself, where people feel they are different from the other. And we think that we have equipped our society to resist ethnic division and ethnic bigotry, over time. It is not a one-off. It is a daily. It is periodic. It is full-time. It is something that we have invested in to the point people ask, you are telling us about unity, or you are telling your people about unity. When people, our friends and partners, ask questions, why do you tell people about unity? They know about it. But we say, look, if they knew about it, the genocide would not have happened. But we continue to talk about it. It's not harmful at all. It is harmful if we don't do it, given our context not too long ago in 1994. So Gacaca was a cornerstone of the march towards progress that Rwanda started marching until now. So, and if you've been to Rwanda, if any of you have been to Rwanda, you will probably go with this image about Rwanda, where you quietly think you will probably meet someone and be able to identify whether they are Hutu or Tutsi. When you go to Rwanda, you don't get that. Even if you spend a month, even if you spend 2 months, you don't get that. On the street, you don't get it. Unless you really hunt for it and you go underground and you go to ask people quietly what they would want to be or what they think they are or what they really are. You would not get it from someone in a taxi, in a pub, in the restaurant where you take your meals, because it's no longer a right of anything. It's no longer a title. It is no longer it doesn't give anybody any more right or any more opportunity than anybody else. The other thing you might have seen if you have been to Rwanda is, or you might not have seen, or you might not have known, is that the taxi driver that is picking you from the airport, the bus driver busing you from one place to another, someone serving you at the restaurant, the person doing your laundry or whatever, whether you are going to shop, the person you are shopping from, you will not tell whether they have just finished a Gacaca sentence in a prison, or they have not finished, or they are a survivor in a family of 10 or 5 or 6. Why? Because deliberately we have resisted and rejected tagging people around what happened during the genocide, whether they are a survivor, whether they are someone who perpetrated or even was sentenced and served their sentence and came out. Once they serve their sentence and come out, if they are teachers, if they are traders, if they are farmers, whatever they want to do, whatever they were doing, whatever they want to go into, it is their choice. And once they do that, they are not tagged. They don't have any identification. So if you have been to Rwanda, you've probably noticed those two things. And then what we have done basically is to commit ourselves to that future. And by what am I trying to say? I'm saying that right from the top of our country, from the executive, from the parliament, from the leadership institutions of our country, we commit ourselves to preserve this oneness, because that is what gives us hope for our future. And we think so far it is working, because we have been able to make the progress that it's not as much as we are not where we want to be, but we have been making modest progress on all fronts. We have made progress in education, have made progress in health, have made progress in agriculture, have made progress in gender equity, we have made progress in IT and technology. We've made progress in justice. We've made progress across the board. We are not where we want to be, but there we are, and we continue to register modest success, courtesy of the Gacaca process. So the Gacaca process for us is a backbone, is fundamental, was a key to liberate the minds of Rwandans, to free Rwandans, and unleash the efforts, unleash the energies, unleash the brains, unleash the capacity of a united Rwandan society. Today, we now have people who were born after the genocide, who are making up probably 60% of our population. So we do hope that from that generation to this generation, the next generation, we do hope that we are making serious contributions to building a united country and a better future. I want to thank you very much for listening to me. And Stephen, if we are still together, I have some time to have a conversation. The class might have one or two questions to ask, and then we keep going.
When looking at a lot of other genocides in this class, we've noticed that there's been a long history in a lot of them sort of preceding it of like tension and a lot of ethnic violence. Do you think that these type of localized and independent type of court that you mentioned today would be effective in other instances of just sort of a long-standing violent history?
Okay, Stephen, could you kindly paraphrase this?
I think she's asking about the history of ethnic violence in Rwanda preceding 1994. Like how did that kind of prime the pump, so to speak, for the genocide that occurred?
Yeah, the genocide in Rwanda was really, if you look at the roots, they would go all the way to the 1950s, because before that we don't know, we don't have a history of violence of genocidal proportion. We probably have societal conflict and very isolated, very personalized, and that's it. But the beginnings of ethnicization of our society, identification as different ethnicities, writing it down in our identity cards. First of all, we didn't have identity cards until they were introduced. And then when they were introduced, someone else just said, well, we need to indicate what ethnicity you are. We have never known the reason, but in the end, it was a very terrible choice to as an administrator to have. So once that was done, slowly, it wasn't so violent at the beginning, but the deepening and instilling of ethnic difference started as an administrative tool, and people were powerless over it because there was a very dominant colonial power, and the identification, classification, discrimination, all these happened through the bureaucracy, the bureaucratic system. They happened through the administration. They happened through jobs. They happened through education. They happened through access to things, until the violence started in the 50s, when it reached a point where there was now pushback, there was now resistance, there was now questioning. And then by that time, it was too late, because there was a huge involvement in terms of the ethnicity that was being empowered and was being radicalized, and it had state support. It had support of the Catholic Church. The Catholic Church was such a dominant place. So the violence started as a response to pushback. And then when it started, it didn't go back. You had these cyclical mini genocides in the late 50s, in the early 60s, in the early 70s. Things went from bad to worse. until 1994. There was a spell that wasn't very, very violent I think in the 80s, but there was never a time that there was no very serious threat against the ethnic group, which in the end would be killed in 1994. So the planning and the whole shaping up of and the radicalizing of the along ethnic division took a long time, and I think that is really what talks about seriously about the genocide that happened in Rwanda against the Tutsi. It was that planning and that radicalization that took quite a long time.
So, High Commissioner, my students this week are reading Philip Gurevich's "We Wish to Inform You that Tomorrow We Will All Be Killed with Our Families." I'm sure you're familiar with this book, which won the Pulitzer Prize here in the United States. You may know that Gurevich went back to Rwanda to mark, I believe, the 20th anniversary of the genocide in 2014, and he discovered that Rwanda, in the meantime, had become a high-tech superpower in Africa, kind of the African Silicon Valley. And I'm curious to what extent is the economic success of Rwanda indicative of the success of Gacaca? Are those two things linked in your view? Was it possible to become the Silicon Valley of Africa without Gacaca?
Well, first of all, thank you for that compliment. We're not yet a Silicon Valley. We dream about it, we think about it, we work towards going there. One day he will come back and find us a real Silicon Valley. But also, the Gacaca process underpins, in our view, it underpins this whole march to progress that we have done. Whatever we have done is a product of being able to rally people around our common humanity as Rwandans, our common ownership of our own destiny as Rwandans, our reliance on ourselves as Rwandans, our realization that we can't outsource our safety, our future, our dignity, our way of life, our coexistence. We can't outsource it to anybody, whether they are a former colonial power, whether they are a religious dominant group. If we do outsource it, because we have seen that all these were there and they did not prevent, they did not stop the genocide. Instead, they took a side. So our history has shown us that. So the Gacaca process, by processing 1,958,000 cases, that was a huge message for those people themselves, for their families, for the society at large, that there is a new chapter in Rwanda. And this chapter is not about ethnic discrimination, is not about ethnic division, is not about revenge after the genocide. What I didn't tell you was that in 2007, we abolished the death penalty. And when we abolished the death penalty, the real or potential death row convicts would certainly have been above 70,000, 80,000, certainly. But we abolished it, and it took no less than the head of state himself to go campaigning to parliament, to the people, to say this was the right time to abolish the death penalty, because it was the time that because we had many people, potential or real, on death row. We were not going to wait until everybody is dead naturally, or everybody is dead by hanging, and then abolish the death penalty. That would have missed the right time to do it. And also, it was to tell people that, look, we must turn the page. We must stop the cycle. And the only way to stop this cycle is to engage those who survived the genocide to forgive. It is so difficult. It is heart-wrenching, but they are the only ones who have something to give. And they were appealed to by the whole of our society to say, look, you have to forgive in order to have a future. So this created the framework, the foundation for the things that we have been able to do. Obviously, these things have been done by economists, by tech people, by doctors, by agriculturalists. Everything that has happened is done by people who are aware of what is done in that sector. But overall, as a country, to create the framework where my mother, my uncle wake up in the morning and know that they do not have to worry about their neighbor coming to kill them. They only have to worry about their child going to school. They have to worry about producing food. They have to worry about going to do their business. That is what I mean by creating the foundation. Because during the ethnic division times, the people worried every single day about who would come to knock at on their door for the wrong reasons, to kill them, to do something wrong to them. But once you take that away, then you unlock you unleash people's capabilities, you unleash people's potential.
Yes, Evan, please stand up and speak loud.
I was wondering how you talk about forgiveness, and I was wondering how you teach the children about this and how you educate about this and that sort of sense.
Yeah, that's a good question. Did you hear the question? Yeah.
Yes, I did. Yes, I did. Yes, I did. And probably I will throw it back to the person asking me. But maybe she could have one or two suggestions. I don't know how we teach the children that separately from how we teach them other things and children are, if you want to categorize them, there are those who are preschool, there are those who are in lower school where children go, and then in the mid school, and through the process of being a child to being a young adult and so on. One is that at the family level, this is a conversation. It is a very serious conversation about forgiveness, about, you don't have to revenge, because even if there was no genocide, I think these kinds of values, these are the kinds of values we impart to children. So for the very young children, it wouldn't have to be a session like they need to learn it. They would have to take it as imparted knowledge or values or wisdom from their parents. But then when they go to school, then you would have in their those who are at the age of studying social subjects and corresponding with their age, they would now have to play it out, to do some bit of drama, to do some exchanges around it, to be given some modest homeworks to take home and ask their mom, their dad, what does this mean? How do I respond to this? and so on, so that over time you're trying to plant on their brain, you are trying to plant on their mind that you know they should learn the value of forgiveness. Now, when they are of age to know that in 1994 a genocide against the Tutsi in Rwanda happened, then you are able, they themselves start asking the questions. Then what happened? When it happened, then what happened? Where is this uncle? We see these pictures. Where is grandpa? We never see grandpa. The other family has a grandpa. What happened? Then you start to find that this is now self-reinforcing. You are able to impart, you are able to communicate, you are able to teach. At the same time, even at the school, they are teaching them about the genocide. Now these are now secondary school and higher on. They are teaching about the genocide, and then they don't teach forgiveness as a separate subject. They teach it within the context of what happened.
Okay, we have
But in case you are, I think some of you might be educators. In case you have, you know, one idea I could take away, please, Stephen, you need help.
Okay, we have one more question here. Larry, speak loud.
Yeah, I was wondering, it's an extraordinary amount of people to be killed in the genocide, and I was wondering how they were murdered. Was it principally with rifles, with bombs? Was it with machetes? And where did the people obtain the weapons needed to do this? And would that tell us anything about how perhaps other forces were involved that gave the people the tools that were used in the murders?
Thank you very much. And that tells me something that you really need. We have in the United Kingdom here and the rest of the world, we have a program. We have a Visit Rwanda program. So I want you to visit Rwanda one day. Plan it and visit Rwanda so you can have a conversation. You can try to understand our society. The genocide happened in 100 days, and those 100 days were really very swift in terms of the number of people that at the end of the day were counted as killed. 1 million people. That means that every single day you are losing about statistically 10,000 people. And the tools that were used, all those that you mentioned, machetes, rifles, all other farm implements, they were being used. Why? Because they were killing a very defenseless, helpless people. Secondly, they were killing them from close quarters. Neighbors, friends, or people who are gathered in one specific place in a church or in an administrative center where you could throw in grenades and then throw in a few more bombs and then shoot the rest. So this whole mix of things was used to kill Rwandans. But basically, the machete and the local tools at home, we think killed more people, substantially more people than the rifles, because people who owned rifles, the army, the police, there were hordes of militias. There were not as many, and secondly, they got engaged on the front lines of the war, and killed. They were also killing. They were also doing a lot of killing, but they focused on the killing, at the same time focused on the running away, and focused also on fighting on the front lines. But they did kill. They did kill whenever there was resistance. Anywhere there was resistance, they would be called upon. And a local commander would dispatch 50 or 60 people with rifles or 20 people with rifles with enough bullets, and you are just mowing down people without any arms. You're just mowing them down, or people with stones and sticks and a few machetes to defend themselves, and you know, hidden on in some space, or taking advantage of a higher ground in order to fight from a higher ground. They would come with guns and mow them down and go away. So rifles were used and so on. But the other question you asked was the involvement of other powers. Yes, the government of the day was 100% involved. The extremist, the extremist camp in a government was led by no other than the wife of the president. And a few of the top brass in the army were either cousin or uncle, or very close. So the government was seriously in it, to the point of moving up and down the country and checking on how the genocide was progressing, and who was still alive and who was not getting involved in the killing, and going out to rally people to do it. So government was fully involved and fully backing it. And that is really why people with the ordinary things, with machetes and all sorts of farm implements, could go and hack their neighbors and go from the neighbor to the next neighbor to the next neighbor. That is the definition of impunity, because they would go in the morning. The genocide did not happen at night. They go in the morning, kill from 8 to 5 o'clock in the afternoon, or maybe kill and stop for lunch and go back and kill until 5 o'clock. They come back and they report they have killed. So and they also take stock of who is still alive and who hasn't been found. So that was how the genocide happened. For those 100 days, it was very rare to find people hunting for anybody at night. The people who survived mostly during nights, because people would go home to sleep and come back to work. They actually called it going to work. It was like we all go to work in the morning and come back home to our families in the evening. So that was the situation.